All right, welcome everyone to our Spanish Fork Rotary Candidates Forum today. We are excited to have almost all of the candidates. We've got two candidates for mayor, Mike Mendenhall and Derek Geslison. Did I get your name right, Derek? Did I get your name right, Derek? Okay. And then we've got four candidates for city council member, Brett Bills, Kevin Euler, Mike Clayson, and Shane Marshall. But Brett is not able to make it, so he sent me a short thing that I will read for him. So I'd like to invite each of the candidates to come sit up in the front, and we will go in the order that I just read, that's from the ballot and from the city website. So,
don't care where anyone sits.
all right, and I'm gonna have my timer going for 7 minutes, okay? I told everyone 7 to 10 minutes, but I think we're getting started a little bit later, so we'll go with 7 minutes. Let's see, and we'll get started with Mike Mendenhall. Let's see, Mike said, just say my name and that I hope to be re-elected to continue serving in my hometown. Mike.
Aaron said send me a bio, and I'm like, I don't have that much interesting about me, so I don't want you to take up too much time. Thanks, it's great to be here at Rotary meeting. This is the place where a lot of stuff happens, as you well know as Rotarians. I'd like to think the past 5 or so years that I've been involved in Rotary and served as a Rotarian along the same time as serving as a councilman in Spanish Fork, that I know you Rotarians know, but maybe the public that I'm speaking to more than anything, is that here's where a lot of it happens. There's been ideas of service opportunities and different different things that have happened in Spanish Fork. What'd you do?
I pushed the wrong one.
Okay. That start right here. Somebody comes up with an idea. Hey, how can we help Spanish Fork in this capacity? And then it turns into more than an idea, and it turns into action. And then it really helps our community, whether it's the youth, whether it's different locations in our city. But that's what's fun about being involved, whether it's the Rotary, the Kiwanis, the Chamber of Commerce, all the service clubs in Spanish Fork are really where the rubber meets the road. Politics are more of, I try to tell this as many times as I can to voters this campaign season, is that local politics is not the same politics or government that we might be yelling at on cable TV, that we all sometimes feel a little bit disconnected from. Local politics is making sure that people are recognized, their voices are heard, and that solutions are come to the forefront. And so there's no D or an R that is next to potholes in Spanish Fork. The pothole just needs to be fixed. And so that's what I've enjoyed about serving the last 8 years in public office here and being a Rotarian. So I hope to earn your vote as mayor of Spanish Fork to continue the trajectory that we've enjoyed. There's a lot of cool things that have happened. I'm excited for the really neat things that are going to happen in the future, and be honored to earn your vote to continue that upward trend. So if we get to questions later, we can certainly talk about those. Is that what we're planning on doing?
Oh yeah, sorry, I should have said. So I did send those 3 questions that some of the Rotarians did send in some questions. I had 3 questions sent in, but we are gonna. So those were just to help you in preparing your remarks. So this would be the time to address those questions, and then at the end. So should I read those? I can give you some more time. I'm pausing your time.
Oh, that's all right. I don't need all that time. I know the questions that we talked about. One was about maybe costs of things going up.
Sorry, let me read the questions because I didn't get this started right. I was meant to do that. So I put, there were 3 questions that were submitted by Rotarians help the candidates direct their comments. So the first one was, please give specific reasons why I should vote for you on city council. What do you plan to do and change? And then number 2 is, in the last 5 years, the storm drain fee has gone up from $7.27 to $12.62, 75% increase. Garbage fee has gone up from $11.15 to $13.35, a 20% increase. The recycle can fee has gone up from $3.61 to $6.85, a 90% increase. Inflation, according to the Labor Department for urban areas, has increased only 16%. Why have the fees gone up so much? And what will you do to combat such high continuing increases? And then the third question is, Spanish Fork used to feel like a small town. Traffic, high-density housing, and the smell of fast food as you come off the Highway 6 exit are changing the character of our town. Is there a way to keep the small town feel while allowing for the growth? And so you can use those questions, you can answer them specifically, or however you want to use them in your comments. So I'm sorry that I
That's all right.
interrupted.
I think I overdid the first question. Oh, right here, Pete, sorry. The second question about the fees going up, your storm drain fee, it went up quite a bit. The reason why it did is we're building a new $90 million sewer treatment plant. So that fee's not going to continue to go up over time for us as residents, but the federal government required that our sewer treatment plant that put out the end of a sewer treatment plant, we were measuring at 0.1 phosphorus parts per million, something like that. The federal government's new guidelines, 0.01 phosphorus parts per million that have to come out the end of a sewer plant. So that's a lot more treatment that has to happen, a lot more technology that has to be installed in a sewer treatment plant. And so it's a $90 million bill to build that new sewer treatment plant that is underway now. That's where your storm drain goes there as well as your sewer. And so we have to get that. The good thing about that is that the water will be so clean coming out the other side of our sewer treatment plant that it can actually be piped back into our secondary irrigation system. So the water that you put on your lawns that we use in the parks can be from our sewer treatment plant after this upgrade is complete, that is underway now. It'll still take another year or two to be complete. That's why the storm drain fee is going up. The other one, the garbage fee has gone up. Again, you won't continue to see increases like that, but we are building a $40 million waste transfer station. Us, Springville, Provo, and Mapleton share in that transfer station. If you go out North Main Street by Love's Trucking right now, you will see that on a day like today, there is garbage piled outside of the transfer station. Why? Our populations have doubled in those cities since that transfer station was built. So we have to build a new transfer station. The way you do it is to raise the fee to do it. And so that, again, you won't experience that continually. That is because of that growth there that needs to happen. I talk to my clients all day. My day job is a financial advisor with Edward Jones Investments, so I talk quite a bit about inflation to my clients. Inflation is a real thing. It's a real cost we're seeing now. Some years you don't see it as much, but we're seeing it now. And so I advise them all the time on inflation. It's way too long of a subject to talk here on camera about. If you want to talk privately about that, we can. The third, about growth in Spanish Fork, don't miss the irony that you're talking to people up here that are elected officials where our homes are 10 years or newer typically, with the exception of Shane. So we are the problem of growth here in Spanish Fork. You're looking at it. We built new homes that were on farm fields 10 years ago. And so growth is a thing that's happening, and going to continue to happen in Spanish Fork. I would say to keep the hometown feel, are things just like this. Be part of a club, be part of Rotary, be part of the Chamber, be part of Kiwanis, and shop here at Macy's. I don't know anything that feels more hometown than when I come into Macy's and see Bill Summers stocking shelves and wanting to chat it up with him, and then see 5 other neighbors that I know too. So, even though we're growing, we're not going to lose the hometown feel of Spanish Fork. Commerce is going to continue to happen. It's a good thing for Spanish Fork to have economic vitality. Again, I've repeated this to voters as well. We used to be excited to have $1 million a year in sales tax revenue in Spanish Fork. Right now, we're trending $1 million a month in sales tax revenue in Spanish Fork. Now, what does that mean for your government? It means that the essential services that we provide can be funded by sales tax instead of our property tax. So you can keep your property tax low, your level of service still high through sales tax revenue that comes into the city. So again, my time is up, but I appreciate the Rotary Club, all that you do. You guys are really the rubber that meets the road and makes this community what it is. So thanks for having us today.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for letting me interrupt you. Okay, next we have Derek Geslison. Derek Geslison is 28 years old and was born and raised in Spanish Fork. He enjoys remodeling homes and building furniture in his free time. He was an elected state delegate for the Republican Party in 2016 and has been politically active for much longer.
I feel like this is like the spelling bee. So yeah, she said, my name is Derek Geslison. I'm very politically involved. Been so for most of my life, as far as I can remember. I remember even back into like 2008 when Obama had won the election. I was obviously upset because I am a conservative, but I remember praying that night that the country would still have success under his leadership and that, you know, we would still thrive as a country. So even at the age, I think I was 15 years old at that time, which shows, yes, I am quite young here. I was very much concerned about the welfare of the country, right? So yes, I'm 28 years old. I'm definitely the youngest person here running for office, but I would say I probably have the oldest ideals. I definitely love to learn more about the Founding Fathers and kind of how they pictured this country, right? And a lot of that is in the Constitution. So when you see any of my ads on Facebook or anything, it's always, my goal is to bring back the Constitution. I am a constitutionalist. And so I feel like I do have a bit more of the older ideals. I think being a millennial, people immediately assume that I probably think like a lot of the millennials who may be causing a lot of these social issues, and obviously we can't blame one group of people, but I don't want to be looped into that demographic that people have such a negative opinion on. When I espouse the writings of John Locke and of John Adams, of George Washington, and that's really who I want to embody, and I kind of want to bring that idea back into politics. For me, I feel like a lot of what we've done in politics on both sides of the political spectrum, we've forgotten what the point of government is. We think government should solve X, Y, and Z, when really we're supposed to be solving that ourselves, right? Government is there to protect us. They're supposed to provide protection against foreign entities, make sure that we have police, military, and to a certain extent, infrastructure. Sometimes we don't do so well at that, and maybe pulling our focus off of things that aren't meant for government, we can better focus on infrastructure and the things that government is meant for. And so a lot of what you'll hear me talk about is how I want to get government out of our lives. And so that question about all these tax increases, right? You can always try and justify what the tax increase is for, right? You paid this much extra, it went towards this. Usually I would say either the government shouldn't be involved in that, or we're not doing a good job at balancing our budget, right? If you ever have to increase your prices, it means you're not budgeting well. And that's one of the issues with government is they think they essentially act as a monopoly. So if they want more money, the citizens have no choice. The taxes get raised and the government gets more money. But really what we need to do is stop spending so much, in my opinion. So that's another point in which I like to talk about is how we can minimize taxes. Now, to a certain extent, taxes are a necessary evil, I would like to say. Back in 2013, or not 2013, in 1913, you had people who, when adjusted for inflation, making about $80,000 per year. Less than that were paying, I think, 1% tax. And that would be the majority of people these days, right? And then people who are making $500,000 or more, I think we're paying around a 5% tax. And that, I mean, in my opinion, it's still probably too much, but that covered what the government was supposed to do, really, right? And so when we talk about, I mean, he brought up sales tax, right? Right now we are having roughly $1 million per month in sales tax through what we're getting through, Macy's and other stores and businesses throughout the city. And so if we're making that much money per month on sales tax, then why do we need all these other taxes, right? I think leaving things up to the free market is really the best way to solve a lot of these things. A lot of people think, like when it comes to the pool, that's something that everyone brings up to me. I would love to have a pool here, right? I'm not going to increase taxes to get the pool. People think, oh, it's a city pool or a rec center. That's got to be provided by the city. That's just what we're so accustomed to doing. And like I said, I want to kind of bring back the ideas that government doesn't need to be involved. So I would rather say, hey, let's try and find a way to bring in private companies. I'm sure they could do it cheaper, they can do it more efficiently, and we don't have to increase taxes for our citizens. I think there's a lot of different situations in which we can find out or find better ways to get the things that we want without having to increase the taxes on the citizens of the city. Same thing with property tax. Obviously, we want to keep property tax low. I personally don't see how that's even legal to have a property tax. One, I feel like it's double taxation, and two, we are granted rights to property ownership within the Constitution. If we're having to pay taxes on it, we don't truly own the property that we have. And that's where we can say, hey, we have additional revenue here in sales tax and other places. Why don't we take what citizens are paying through property tax and try and fund it through other means, so that we're guaranteeing the rights that are given to us through the Constitution, the Founding Fathers, how they envisioned our country in the first place. Let me pull up my list here of some of the other questions here. How much time do I have?
You've got 1 minute, 20 seconds.
1 minute. So the first question was about why people should vote for me. Hopefully I've iterated that pretty well. And then high density housing. So yes, it's correct. Probably a lot of us are in newer houses. My house was actually just finished in March, so I am in a newer development. We don't want to say no to all growth, right? Especially when we are getting the increase in tax revenue through sales tax. But I think what a lot of the concern is with what I've talked to various people throughout the city is the high density housing that is just being approved left and right. I think that's what's taking away from the small town feel. The more single family unit homes and the more spread out people are, the more parks we can have in between all these different developments. I feel like you're going to maintain that small town feel. And then I also think what we need to do better at is pre-planning, looking ahead and saying, we are building developments here. How can we alleviate future traffic? How can we provide different entities like laundromats and parks and grocery stores in separate locations, so that we're not having people who have to commute 5-10 minutes from their home to get to the only place in the city that provides the necessities that they want, right? Planning ahead a little bit more in order to make things our walkable distance, allow have neighborhoods essentially acting as their own little cities, right? Because that's how you maintain that small town feel. So hopefully I've done a decent job iterating my platform. Appreciate you guys putting on this event here for us. Again, my name is Derek Gesselson, and I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you so much, Derek. Okay, so now we'll move on to the candidates for City Council. So I know there's 2 spots open and 4 candidates. We've got 3 candidates here today. Brett Bills was not able to make it, so I'm going to read what he sent me. He said, I apologize, I'll not be able to make it to the Rotary meeting today. I am a 20-year resident of Spanish Fork, a proud father of 5 daughters, an admitted data nerd. He spent 15 years working in IT and quality control for one of the largest security software firms in the world. He currently works as Director of Engineering for Domo, where his main job is to evaluate data and make decisions. Brett is running for City Council to be a voice in the room for the citizens. His natural tendency is to fight taxes and rate hikes and push for collaboration and compromise. He would rather have a very public discussion about projects and ideas than a quiet or sequestered process. Brett believes in transparency is the best way to make sure the citizens' voice and will is embedded in everything the city does with our tax dollars. And he wrote some more, but I feel like it's not fair for me to read everything he wrote since he's not here. But he said you can read more about Brett and his process for making decisions at brettbills.com, and feel free to contact him with any questions. Brett Bills. Okay, so after Brett, we have Kevin Euler. Kevin Euler inherited from his parents a love for Spanish Fork and his vigilance in searching for ways of making it an even better place for all of us to live and work. He has served in many capacities, including Scoutmaster, coach, fellows host, and is currently serving as chair of the Planning Commission. He strongly believes that as issues change, core values and character should not. Spanish Fork is more to Kevin than home, is part of who he is about maintaining traditions and dedication to our small town community, even as we grow. Kevin.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Rotary Club and Macy's, for hosting us again. It's nice to be here. Just a quick intro. Again, my name is Kevin Euler. I'm a Spanish Fork native. I grew up on the west side of town in the old Mitchell Drive subdivision. My parents are Dave and Susan Euler. My grandparents are Richard and Margie Banks. I'm married to my wife Angela. We've got 4 kids, and we currently live now just over by the sports park on the west end, southwest end of town. Spanish Fork is, my dad was employed by Spanish Fork for 40 years, and so I grew up with city issues, city projects, city functions and events as being a part of my life. It's the only thing I've ever known, as far as being a resident of Spanish Fork, is just being involved and serving and helping and working and trying to make our community a better place. The questions that were asked, I really want to focus on because they were really good questions. The first one is, please give specific reasons why I should vote for you to be on the city council. I think one specific reason is because I've spent the last 4.5 years managing and understanding and learning about growth, being on the city's planning commission. I was elected to be chair, and so I've held a leadership position that's given me opportunities to study and learn and talk to citizens in our community about their concerns with growth in Spanish Fork. Growth, if you look at the issue of growth, especially in Spanish Fork, you'll realize that 80% of the growth that is happening in Spanish Fork is internal. My parents had 7 kids. Every one of us live in Spanish Fork. I've got 4 kids. I've got 22 nieces and nephews. We all live in Spanish Fork. We live on what used to be cornfields, alfalfa fields. And so Spanish Fork, is going to continue to grow as we want our kids, we want our families to stay close, to stay nearby. So growth doesn't necessarily need to be a bad thing. What we need is to make sure we're planning correctly for that growth, that we're putting infrastructure in as the homes come in, that we're putting the density in the correct locations. Density, high density, isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's more beneficial in a sense that we have high density closer to highways, closer to restaurants, closer to grocery stores, so that they don't have to jump in their cars, drive through residential neighborhoods to get there. But you don't, at the same time, want a community that's just single-family homes, because then you've built out all of these roads, all of this infrastructure that's maintained by a smaller tax base. So it makes sense to have a mix. You need both high density, you need low density, so that that tax base grows and that we all can help each other. Along with the growth, I think one of the issues people are worried about is we lose that open space, we lose the small town feel. And so you need to make sure that as you grow, you're planning appropriately for where you want your parks, where you need your recreation, where you want your open space. If you wait until the growth happens, the cost to purchase that land that you want for parks has gone up exponentially. Instead of paying $30,000 an acre for agricultural farmland that you're going to use eventually as a park, you now pay $100,000 because the development's already there and you're having to buy it from a developer. So it's important as a city and as a council to plan for those types of things, make sure you're preparing and looking to the future. Another reason why I think I would be be good on city council is because I'm a numbers guy. I spend all day employed at New Skin crunching numbers, running numbers, looking at budgets. The city's budget is probably the #1 issue that city council members and the mayor vote on each year. One thing that we need to improve on and do better as a community in the city is getting people involved in those meetings. I don't know if any of you watched the city council meeting where they actually had the truth and taxation hearing and went over the annual budget. There were 2 citizens in the room. We've got to find a way to get more people involved, more people out, more of our residents talking about their concerns and talking about what's good as well. So that's one thing I'd like to focus on is how can we improve community involvement? I've got a few ideas on that. One thing that I've seen on the Planning Commission is when we have a public hearing, typically, unless if it's something that's happening in your backyard, people don't show up to those meetings. A lot of our public hearing notices, as you drive by, you'll see a little sign on a piece of property with lots of wording and lettering. Not many people typically take the time to stop, jump out of their car and read everything that's on that sign. But what if we were to do newsletters or signs that had a QR code that rather than get out of your car, you can get close enough that you can pull out your phone, scan the QR code, and it takes you to a website that gives you all of the details, not just what you can fit on a little public notice, but all of the details as to what's going on with that development or in that area. So different ideas, different ways that we can communicate better as a community, get people out, get people involved in our meetings. What do you plan to do and change? I think I just talked about that. I want more community involvement. In the last 5 years, the storm drain, the garbage, recycling can fees have all gone up. What can we do about that? That, I think, is another issue of communication that we can work on and improve. I know when the city cable network has a fee increase, SFCN, you'll get a notice explaining why. Fox News or CNN or some other cable network are increasing their prices, and because you have that package, it's reflected on your new fee increase, your new price increase. Why can't we do that? Or maybe let's find ways to do that with other fees and things that we're being charged. Mike just did a great job of explaining why our storm drains, why our garbage cans are going up. It'd be nice if in the newsletters or if by email or something we were notified and explained. The reason the question's asked is because they don't have the answer. Let's provide the answers to the questions before they need to be asked. So that's another suggestion and idea I have. Let me go back and see what else we had. Same thing with, real quick, just to close. The city budget's online, but how many people know that? How many people know where it's at? And how many people can actually read it and understand what's in there? We have a budget meeting once a year. I think it would be beneficial to all of us if we could have more frequent discussions with the city on how our money, how our tax dollars are being spent. So that's another thing I'd like to look at is how can we open up more communication. I've had the opportunity to get out and knock doors, call people, talk to them, and once the election's over, if I'm elected, that's not going to end. I want to continue knocking doors, continue going to neighborhoods and asking the citizens, what do you like, what do you dislike, what can we do better? And I think that would go a long ways in continuing to improve things in Spanish Fork. So again, my name's Kevin Euler, I'm running for City Council, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, I think, let's see, I think next we have, yes, Mike Clayson. All right, Mike, I got your email. So I've got it. Mike Clayson was born and raised in Spanish Fork. He married Angie Dancy, and they have 5 kids. He works at Pacific Horizon Credit Union here in town, and he has served on the Fiesta Days Committee. Mike.
I'd like to start by thanking the Rotary Club and Macy's for having us. And I think these guys behind us are getting sick of hearing about us. So I know these guys are really good now, which is a good thing. But like I said, I was born and raised here in Spanish Fork, which I've come to find out is not a reason to run for council. that touches a nerve with people when we say we were born and raised here. I don't know if you guys have got these emails, and that's not a reason to run for city council. And I'm like, well, I love this city, and that's why I'm trying to do this. It drives my wife, who is my campaign manager, crazy that I say I have no agenda, no platform. I'm here to help. I'm here to serve. If they want me to, whatever they want me to do, that's what I'm going to do. I work at a credit union here, and my background is in finance. But I also know who the finance people are here in Spanish Fork. They don't need my help. If they do, they would come and ask. And I've got to know through running for this some of the city employees and just how much they do for this city behind the scenes. I always like to tell the experience, if you've ever been to Fiesta Days, it's a big event. There is some phenomenal work that goes into there. And for a while, I was for 3 years, we got to be on the committee. And you got to stand up at a microphone and say, hey, here we are, let's have a big party. And everybody says how good you did. And I felt guilty because we just showed up and talked. You've got Spanish Fork 17 in the corner running cameras. You've got all the employees setting up tables, chairs, tents. And I turn to my wife and says, I feel guilty. Everybody's giving us all this credit for something we didn't do. And I was joking with one of the employees the other day. I said, do you guys ever hate us when we get up there and just take credit for all the work you do? And he says, hey, it's part of the job, we get it. And that's just, it's one thing that this city, one of the questions is how do we keep this small town feeling? We keep doing what we're doing. If we keep having events, there is nothing greater in my mind than middle of July to have Fiesta Days. 100 degrees, we're out partying, watching movies, having a fireworks show, and having a good time with it. There's been a lot of talk on growth. There's no easy answer. The important thing, it doesn't matter what I think because I'm here for the people. I have my own ideas. I got an email the other day, said, tracks, they're coming this way. What do you think? I said, I'd rather not have them. I know that's not really going to happen. It's coming, and we can't stop it. But my point is, let's do it smart. Let's get the infrastructure. Let's do the things. I don't have all the answers. And in a neighborhood, I had a guy email me about housing. They want to come in, tear down, put up apartment buildings and stuff. And I think everybody's like, oh, yeah, I see that need. Unless it's your neighborhood. Then you might want to have some different thoughts and different ideas on it. And I told him he didn't like my answer. I would literally go in that neighborhood, go to door and ask them what they think about it. They were comparing it to what happens in Salt Lake, and we're not Salt Lake. And they probably tear down some houses that should be tore down and build some nice buildings. But we're Spanish Fork, totally different. I can't remember the other question. Why vote for me? I think I want to be the voice of the people. Since I decided to run, I have an office just here in Spanish Fork, and it's amazing how many people stop by just to give me some ideas, different opinions and different things, and I want to be the voice. There's a lot of opinions out there, and there's some good in all of them, and I think we need to make sure we look at all of them. I think Councilman Mendenhall did a good job on the tax increases. It's something that we have to have. I don't think anybody would want to raise them unless we have to. One thing I'd like to point out is the city involvement. I know we all want more of that. And I think back to when we decided to run and there was 11 people running. That's pretty impressive. And I'd love to see that, because when that primary happened, there was a lot of involvement, a lot of buzz, because those 11 people had their people involved. And I hope as we continue on, whoever wins and goes, that we can keep the community involvement, because that's what we need. We need voices. We need to hear what people think and want. We also need to realize that we live in Spanish Fork, and this city is managed, in my opinion, better than any other city. There's a reason everybody wants to be here, stay here, and come here, because it's a great place to live. I'm Mike Clayson, and I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, last but not least, we've got Shane Marshall. He says he's lived here in Spanish Fork for over 40 years. He married his high school sweetheart and raised his 3 girls here. He graduated from BYU in civil engineering and spent 25 years at UDOT. For the last 5 years, he was responsible for the day-to-day operations of the DOT with a $2.1 billion annual budget and 1,600 employees. This experience, coupled with 4 years on the City Planning Commission, has given him the knowledge it takes to understand and have a plan to address the issues facing Spanish Fork. He was appointed to the City Council in May, and he's earned the trust and respect of the council. He's looking forward to serving the citizens of Spanish Fork.
Thank you, Aaron. Thanks for everyone to be here today. Man, I'm short. Something you learn on the campaign trail. Don't follow Mike and Derek. I think the best part about the three questions were the first one. Be specific on why someone should vote for you. We don't oftentimes get into specifics about it. We talk about we're from here, we live here, we want to serve here. All those are true. You can't find anyone on this that's running that doesn't love Spanish Fork and want to serve. I think there's three reasons why you should vote for me. The first one is my background and experience. I've spent 25 years in government service. I understand how budgets work. I understand, more importantly than how budgets work, that the budget comes from the taxpayer. Like, it's your dollars that we're spending, and to make sure that you're transparent and open with how you spend those dollars is extremely important when you serve on the government side. The public should know where you're spending the money, why you're spending the money, and the benefit they get from spending the money. So you don't learn that without having that experience, and I think that background will lend itself really well. I think secondly, I learned a lot about how to be a leader. And as I think about what I want to see in a city council member, I think that's the number one criteria I want to have in my city council member. Someone that can lead a group of people to find the answers. I may not have all the answers. I think it's important that I have some of them, that I bring something to the table. But I need to be a successful city council member, you need to be able to lead people to a solution. It's easy to find problems. It's easy to point them out. It's easy to understand that 10th North out here is busy. Right? It's busy and it's bad, but what are the solutions to that problem? And finding those solutions and bringing a group of people to the same conclusion, to a good outcome, is a part of being a good leader. And I think that's what it takes to be a good city council member. And I think my background and experience has shown that I can be a good leader. I spent, like I said, 25 years, in my bio said I spent the last 5 years running the Utah Department of Transportation and day-to-day operations. And from that perspective, I was able to see cities across the state make good and poor land use decisions. And I know the ramifications that has on the communities. I get to bring that experience to the city council to understand when a good decision happens and how that impacted our community, and also, more importantly, when a bad decision happens and the impact that have. I think what comes with that experience is the understanding of when not to do something. I talked about 10th North. I think that's a really good example of sometimes it might not be, sometimes the solution may be more impactful than what you have out there today. So one solution is to add another lane on 10th North. But what does that do to the community at large? Do we want 6 lanes of traffic on 10th North? We often talk about the intersection of 6 North or US 6 and 10th North. It's bad, right? No one wants to go through that. But what's the ramifications of doing something there? Do we have an overpass in the middle of our community? Do we want an overpass in the middle of our community? Do we want to remove a church to solve a transportation problem that really, when you go through there, is maybe a couple minutes on a bad day, maybe 5 minutes on a really bad day, but more often than not, it's just one signal. So is the ramifications of doing something there worth the benefit? And I get to bring that experience to the table. The second question about fees is a great question. And I think Mike did a good job explaining why. I've been on the city council now for 4 or 5 months. I could not have told you why those went up. And I think that's indicative of not sharing the why, and not asking the question, not having the conversation openly enough about the why something's going to happen. And I think that's what I'm going to bring to the table, is the constant question of why this, why that, why this. I'm not afraid of the conversation. I expect it to happen. I want both sides of the issue. I want multiple sides of the issue, and I want to make sure we have that openly and transparently whenever we're talking about a fee increase. I want to make sure that if something has to go up, it's not because of bureaucracy that's making it go up. It's because the service is just more expensive. And be able to articulate that why, I think, is extremely important. The last question is about a hometown feel, a small hometown feel. This is one of my favorite questions to get, and I'm a little bit different than the rest. I think that it's definitely not up to the city council to make that happen. I think it's incumbent upon the city at large, the community members, to create that small town feel. We often talk about the city spending dollars. Again, that's the taxpayer dollars. It's our money being spent on something. And I think when the citizens realize or understand that they're spending their money and investing it into community, we can create that small town feel. You create that by bringing people together, like Mike said, like this. When we go to the park and we celebrate something, we bring people to the park. That's what makes us different than another community. You go to the pool with your kids and you socialize and you interact with other people. You provide an outlet for your kids in the community to come together and talk. That's what makes this a small town feel. I look at Main Street. When I grew up in Spanish Fork, I could ride my bike down Main Street. I'm not riding my bike down Main Street right now. No way. I don't think any of us want to. But why couldn't we? Why couldn't we create something downtown that brings people together, that brings people downtown, make it walkable, make it a place people want to live, shop, work, and recreate? We could do that. Let's focus on Main Street. We have such this great economic engine on 10th North now that Mike said is bringing in $1 million a year. Maybe we should focus on Main Street and what it can mean to our community and bring people together there. That's what creates a small town feel. It's investing our money, our time, our efforts into our community. We didn't get these great ball fields, soccer fields by happenstance. Someone stood up somewhere and said, I'm going to give my time and my money to the city to make that happen, and that's what makes Spanish Fork great. That's the conversation we need to continue as we move forward and grow. We shouldn't be scared of growth. I want my kids to live and work here. I don't know that they can afford to right now. We need to provide a variety of homes, housing types throughout the community that allows my kids and your grandkids to come to this community and stay here. Well, I don't know we have that yet. One thing we can do to make sure that happens is to restart the general plan. We're living on a general plan that we implemented 10 years ago. It's time to set the groundwork all over again and start talking about where do these type of homes and housing opportunities sit in our community. And how do we put them in a place that doesn't impact the current residents, but it facilitates people coming to our community and our kids growing up here. Kevin talked about engaging the community. I think it's super important when you start talking about a new general plan to engage the community. But people don't come out for that type of conversation. People don't come out to just talk about planning. They come out to talk about when that backhoe is out on their property or their neighbor's property, right? So maybe we should just put backhoes across the entire community and start digging up stuff, and people will come and talk about planning. Maybe that's a little facetious, but the idea is we really need to bring people in and say, okay, we can't look at these things as a one-off. We need to plan as a whole, and so that we're putting the right density in the right locations. My time's up. I appreciate the opportunity. Please visit my website if you want to learn more about me. Give me a call. I'd love to have these conversations with just about anybody. My name is Shane Marshall. I'm running for City Council. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Shane. Thank you to all of our candidates. We've got some great people running for mayor and city council, so good luck to you as you make your decision about who to vote for. I just wanted to say that Election Day is next Tuesday, November 2nd, and you can mail your ballot in now, or you can drop it off. I think there's a drop-off spot at the Spanish Fork Senior Center parking lot, and you've got to deliver it prior to Election Day. So thank you.